Welcome to Rauta's American Black Metal Time. This time we have a band, Cacotopia, which isn't exactly a new band, or at least inexperienced ones, given that this is the third album, self-titled one. However, this band is still, or should we say now, in self-financed states, as this CD happens to be, which makes us question why. That is also very, how to say, demo-ish approach with the music when you know you're gonna pay the bills when it comes to printing and just creating the music. Obviously, you do have certain level of independence when you do it like that, but the question remains, were you not too good or good enough for a label to begin with, or is there something else with the story? Obviously, that goes beside the scope of this review. In my time here, I am mostly focusing on the music, but giving you a little bit of background information as well. So here it is, mentions here that it's already done in 2023, yet the album itself is here without no lyrics and all that stuff, and very much so quite a new release. So fast forward to 2025, that's when this album is actually here, only about 7 years later than their previous works. So before that, we go back in the history to 2002 when this band was founded. A few years later, there was a demo, the kind of appropriate stuff to really have your band formed and all that stuff. But it took 12 years for the band for their first album, Inhuman Agitation. Now, unfortunately for me, I haven't heard these previous albums, so I really can't compare what these guys were up to back in the days. So obviously we're gonna just talk about this two-man band compared to, not compared to, but talking about the new bands. Here's the lineup: guitars, bass, drum programming, and vocals. So two-man band, which is quite indie if you really think about it. Anyway, here it is, Cacotopia with the first self-titled one. Third album, but a self-titled one. 11 tracks, 40 minutes, and so on. Now, the band itself describes this a little bit different, but I would say this is mostly, when it comes to the genre, melodic black metal done in a rather traditional way. Now, when it comes to being traditional and all that stuff, nothing here is exactly new, phenomenal, revolutionary, and so on with the variety of words. You could say this band, or this album that they released, is pretty much based on the melodies they do have. Nothing here really reeks of going into any far extremity in the sense. Obviously, this is black metal, so that it already is part of extreme black metal. But when we are talking about the production or the tempo and all that stuff, this is pretty basic, kind of a default setting, the black metal with melodies and all that stuff. So it's not like overly melodic, it's not overly fast or anything like that. But then again, it's not like, let's go full doom with the black metal stuff. So more into mid-tempo, somewhat energetic in its game, and as such, pretty nicely executed. By nice, I mean the production is pretty solid. It's not really great. After all, we're talking about 2025, when, the standard has pretty much gone up since the 90s and all. But I mean, it does its job just fine. And the same thing can be said about the rather traditional black metal vocals, which are somewhat hateful, but not kind of like, too far. I'm saying things, nothing really that says, okay, this is gonna challenge things. This is not gonna, be pushing the envelope, so to say. It's more like, black metal in a very focused ways. So once again, nothing too lo-fi or nothing like that, but executing melodic black metal in a rather traditional way. Now, obviously, then the big question is, are the songs really good? Or is it sounding like very Swedish or something, because the melodic black metal is a thing that popping up, and obviously we would then, move our gaze into Sweden, say, if you saw the wordplay, heard the wordplay, exactly. Anyway, so we're talking about the kind of melodic black metal, but not in the French or Canadian ways. We're not really talking about the Swedish way either, but if I had to put this in one subgenre box of things, I would guess this is probably closer to that Swedish style or anything else. But nothing really here, unfortunately, isn't that catchy. And obviously, when we're talking about melodic black metal, then catchy is kind of like required. I mean, after all, that's why you do a lot of melodies. They kind of drill into your brain and you're like, oh, I love this melodic thing here, but this is more like the kind of our run-of-the-mill stuff. Nothing is fundamentally wrong, nothing is annoying, nothing is obnoxious, nothing is like, what the fuck? But then again, this album isn't exactly made those really great songs either. It's just one of those albums that is quite easy to just listen to without being bothered or annoyed or anything. But I'll be honest and say, this isn't exactly the kind of stuff that you probably want to be praising to your friends because it's so goddamn good. Basically, I would say I like what these guys are doing, but in terms of getting this to a next level, first of all, real drums, even better, kind of crispier, and at the same time more powerful sound, and even more so, better songwriting. So once again, the kind of a basic melodic black metal that is really, really easy to listen to without having a problem with it, unless you just feel you've already heard hundreds or I don't know, even thousands of these. It's entirely possible. But I don't know, maybe these guys are, figuring it out on the go, and maybe someday they will do the definite album by Cacotopia. So far, so good, but sometimes that is not enough. Obviously, you will figure out for yourself whether or not this is your cup of tea, and if you like it, obviously, go buy it and support the independent artist in question. Links are included in the description box. Off you go, check it out, and bye.